Welcome everyone to another edition of the Tuesday Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind Call. I'm Todd Bookspan, founder of Win by Noon, and I'm subbing for Dave Savage. So welcome on behalf of both Mortgage Coach and Win by Noon. And I'm very, very excited because we've got just a rock star of a human being and coach, Khai McBride. Welcome, Khai.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad I'm still around after all these years. I feel like Madonna, have to reinvent myself every single year, make my singles still listenable.
I think that's a great way of putting it. Madonna's awesome. I just posted a picture of my favorite concert where I was 5 feet from her on Facebook. So perfect reference for me. I'm excited for this opportunity because, I don't know if you know this or not, but you kind of first came into my world, more than a dozen years ago, probably right when you first started coaching, and you coached a friend of mine, Mike Metz, through the perfect loan process. So I remember you when you were starting out as a coach, and really just watching you from afar and seeing how you've been so good at helping people get really tactical and, really streamline in their process. And I know as we were kind of warming up for today's call, you said you're really good at helping people who get stuck, get unstuck.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of coaches, they do a really great job at helping people fill up their pipelines, get leads, create relationships. I've always been the coach that help people organize, structure their business, structure their behaviors, structure their mind. I work on the engine, the machine of everything for that to work. And I've always looked at it that way. Marketing is a piece of it. And even when I look at marketing, there's a billion marketing ideas, but then I look at it and I say, okay, well, how do we make that consistent? How do we automate that? How do we systemize that? And just the way my brain works. And yeah, that was probably, I think I was on stage for the first time in 2006. And then I started coaching in 2009. Mike Metz, I coached him around 2010. And I remember he approached me and he said, okay, Khai, well, I want to get coached. I said, great. How many units a year do you do? And he said, 300 units. And I said, well, why do you need to be coached? He said, because I work 60 hours a week and I can't ever leave town. So we worked on his processes. And before in about a year's time, he was out in, working remote on it from his destined second home, and got down to 45 hours a week just running a team.
Well, that was it. He was the number one. It's the epitome of why excellence continues to grow. He was the number one producer in Arizona, and he was still committed to get coaching. And so for those who don't know you, we probably should have started here, kind of give a little bit of background. Obviously, you said 2006, you're on stage for the first time. 2009, you started coaching. I mean, what's someone who doesn't know Khai McBride need to know about you?
Yeah, it's quite a resume in the coaching industry. Started originating in 2001. I'm a former tech industry guy who got crushed by the .com crash in 2001. So I got into the mortgage industry by accident because I did a bunch of tech for mortgage people. So they brought me into the business, which a lot of people, when they start in the mortgage industry, they're getting a phone and some contacts and they say, good luck, here's a rate sheet. But luckily I was friends with like Tim Brahim, Bill Hillis, these big producers and these big branch owners. And so they showed me all the ropes when it came to structure and production and everything else. And so I originated for about 11 years, probably average anywhere between 150 to 250 units throughout that time. 2009, so there was a crossover. I started coaching and I have my coaching company today. It's been 13 years. But I also help develop a mortgage division for Celebrity Home Loans. And I also have my own branch with them as well too. So I'm also back in the retail game. I just don't do loans. I more manage and I put processes together, but I always have my hands in a lot of different things. Again, trying to keep myself relevant like Madonna. and a lot of the crossover has helped because when I stopped in the mortgage industry and I went to pure coaching, my connection to the mortgage industry and keeping relevant was through my clients. But once I actually started getting back into helping run a division and running my own branch, then I'm a lot more hands-on again, so in addition to having that part of the business, it's really helped my coaching a lot, my perspective in terms of what I see and what people can and can't do and behaviors. Because like we were talking about earlier, which we'll get in today, there's a lot of great strategies out there, but until you're actually faced with, wait, I have to implement the strategy, like what's the best way without disruption? That's the hardest part about this business.
Yeah, totally. So what are you seeing then right now that you're back in, as kind of the big opportunities? Where are you seeing people have success?
I think right now everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and they know what tools they're supposed to have, and then they get it, but then they don't know where to start, or they get stuck at certain things. So for example, you have Win by Noon, and you talk about the benefits of Win by Noon all the time. And somebody says, great, I'm going to buy Win by Noon. And they get it. And they say, okay, well, like, what do I do first? Right. And there's training on how to use it and everything. But then they run into the issue of, well, how do I actually use it every single day? Right. So for example, I'm a huge personal planner too. I don't have it in front of me. It's in the other room, but I'm a huge believer in using a paper planner. And for those of you that want to get into, I don't know, whether it's the psychology or the neuroscience of it, what's the difference between like a digital planner and like a paper planner? Well, a digital planner, just the way our brains work, when we start seeing in digital format and we have to type and we have to go left and right, we start paying attention too much to format and sequence. And so we use too much of our left brain, which is very sequential. And what happens is you have more of a creative block. The thing about using analog and paper is that you're not thinking about writing. You can just write naturally. You can write with your eyes closed. And so you open up that right side of your brain and you get a lot more creative. And that's why paper planners like Win by Noon, I use Panda Planner. There's a lot of other ones that people use, like the Michael Hyatt Planner and everything like that. That's why I think they're more beneficial when you're trying to be creative. You're trying to plan your business. You're trying to think about your day. You're trying to think about what you're supposed to, not supposed to do. When you think about your goals and goal setting. And the best time to use planners is, for me, I'm a 5 o'clock in the morning person. And it's the first thing that I do, because in that morning time, that's when you're most creative. That's when your mind is fresh. That's, you have the most energy. And when we talk about time management, which goes hand in hand with planning, it's more about energy management, focus, and being connected to your goals. And I think one of the reasons why people really miss the mark when it comes to time management and hitting their goals is because most people just wake up in the morning and they just start working. And if all you do is you just wake up in the morning and you start working, then that's all you're going to do. You're not setting aside time for planning and hitting goals and being creative. And it creates a ton of burnout. I mean, if I were to ask every single person on this who's listening to this call, what's the first thing that you do? I bet you most people check their text messages and their emails, and then you just get into reactive mode and you start your day. The first thing that you should do is get your cup of coffee, grab your Win by Noon planner, grab your Michael Hyatt planner, grab your Panda planner, whatever that is, sit in a nice quiet place and just start writing. And I read this really, really good meme the other day that said, if you have too much in your head, like loan officers do, you should write. Just get it all out of your head, and all that anxiety will go away. All the planning will go away. All the focus will come. All the goal setting will come. And if you don't have enough in your head, like you're stuck, then you should read or listen. So I think the most important thing that you should do first thing in the morning, early in the morning, between 5 and 7 o'clock, is either write or read or listen. And I do a combination of both. I start throwing on audio tapes, whether it's Tony Robbins, or I'll listen to like a mortgage coach video, or whatever the next great book is by Tim Grover, Winning by Tim Grover, something like that. And sometimes I'll listen and I'll write in my plan at the same time, because it gives me so much inspiration. Sometimes we listen to these audio books while we're driving in the middle of the day, and we can't do anything with that energy. I do it in the morning and I get going. And I think one life hack is like, how do people get unstuck? How do people get out of burnout and get into that time when you were super focused and you were ready to go and you had all this energy and you were excited about your business? You eliminated that the moment you just wake up and you just start working, and you have to have that first 2 hours. And I know a lot of people, they say, well, I wake up at 5 o'clock. And I said, what do you do? Like they say, oh, I go hit the gym, take my kids to school, I take a walk and I shower. It's like, but you still haven't given that time for planning your business and planning your life. And that needs to happen. And I guarantee if you do that every single day, for 2 hours a day, you either write or read, one of those two things, it'll completely change the course of your business and your life. And that's like my favorite, like half call. And by the way, I was a complete night owl. There was no way I could get myself to wake up early in the morning. So here's the life hack for that. You got to go to sleep at a certain time. You want to wake up at 5? I got to get to sleep by 10. So if you're a night owl, you're at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, there's no way you're going to get up early. What's the life hack for that? Getting to sleep late? Well, there's a life hack for that too. It's either like melatonin. I mean, there's ways. Start working out. There are plenty of things that will get you tired by 10 p.m. and you'll just crash out. Then all of a sudden you wake up at 5 p.m., you read, you write, and now you're starting your life and your day on the right note. And that's probably my favorite advice to give anybody in the world.
All right. I think that's so good. We could almost end the call right here. Of course, I love hearing all of that, especially on, the whole idea of paper and pen. And I think that morning routine is super important. And what I'm hearing out of it is kind of a word that Dave and I were talking about last week on our Friday call, which was intentional. You're really intentional around your day. And I do believe that the best morning routine starts the night before. And it's not that difficult. I think, 20% of people are afternoon and night people. And those are the people that give pushback to the morning routine folks. But, even if it's not 5 a.m. that you get up, you can still do the same thing at 6 or 7. But you heard Khai use the word react, and we all get up and we react. And we're, once you pick up your phone, right? So once this thing's going, you're just off to the races. You're letting someone else, whoever sent you that text or email, run your day. And so I think that's a great life hack. I should point out one thing. I failed in my opening to do my Modern Mortgage Summit commercial. So for those of you who haven't bought your ticket, it's tomorrow. I'm literally sprinting out of here to fly to San Diego, where we're going to be in the American Dream studio. Dave, myself, and Renee Rodriguez. We're super stoked for that. Robert's going to throw the direct link in there to get tickets. It's not too late. And we got just a great lineup. Dave and I were going through stuff this morning. He's actually speaking as we speak at the Ohio Mortgage Bankers Association. He's going to be flying in tonight hot from Cincinnati to be prepared for the summit. And it's, the content's amazing. I've watched all the content now, a lot of it twice. And I think if you haven't bought a ticket, you're really missing out. You get 30 days access for $99. For $149, you get it for a year. And we just know from last year that everyone who got access to the content, gave us incredible reviews. So we'd love to see you there if you haven't done so yet. I just was so excited to talk to you, Khai, that I forgot to give my commercial up front like that.
Well, here's another hack. I always tell people that when I go to an event that, you go to an event, the event ends on Wednesday, the event ends on Sunday, whatever that is, and then you always work the next day. I always told my team that I'm still not back. I'm back in the office, but I have one more day to download everything that I learned from the event. So I had to write down all my notes, and I had to basically get all that information transitioned into it. Otherwise, you go to an event and they give you this nice workbook, and all you ended up with was $1,000 workbook.
Yeah,
that just sits on your bookshelf. So that's another thing. I think when it comes to time management, I think that there's sort of a myth that time management is about getting everything done. I think it's more about prioritization management, energy management. Here's another thing about, I think this is about a myth of time management too. All ambitious people, you're never going to finish anything ever, 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 because you're here, your goal is here. As soon as you get close to your goal, what are you going to do, Todd?
Hopefully you're going to raise it up.
You're going to raise it up, right? Anybody who actually completes everything, you're far too content. You're far not ambitious enough, right? And so I think everybody that's listening has to just remember this right now. You will never, ever, ever finish anything if you have an ounce of ambition. And if you can live with that, then you have to go by Pareto's law, which is 80-20 rule. Just do 20% of the most important things, because those are the things that put you into the biggest trajectory. And I think it's like I said, these hacks of just that morning, that 20% creates that 80%. It's these events you'll learn. Sometimes I'll go to an event and I'll just learn one thing, 3 things out of 8 hours, 16 hours worth. But then I can take that and I can catapult it, right? So just because it's on the top of my head, I know this is kind of shifting gears, but let's say we're working with the processors, right? And we're trying to figure out, I got this pipeline of 10, 20, 30 loans. Well, here's what I figured out according to this whole prioritization thing. I did this with my processor for quite a long time. I figured out that a processor could work on maybe 7 files at most in a day. It didn't matter how big my pipeline was, 20, 30, they're only going to work on 7. The question is which 7, right? So we created a method, which I can show you in a bit. We created a method to determine that 7, and she would follow that method. She would send it to me in the morning and say, I'm going to work on these 7 files today. So then I would look at that. I would look at that email and I would respond and say, that looks good. Or I would say, nope, I want you to work on this second, and don't forget about this one and that one. Sent it back. And we were always in sync that way, because it was really just about the most important ones and the ones that I'm thinking about and the one that she's thinking about, and in the right order. And if we just did that once a day, it just eliminates all the chaos, all the anxiety. And it didn't matter this much. We really only care about this much. And same with my assistant now. I have her do the same thing. She sends me a Monday project email with all the projects that she's working on. That way I look at it and I can agree or disagree. And then I know that I don't have to think about what she's doing. Is she doing the right thing? Is she doing the wrong thing anymore? So if you have a team member, you have an admin, you have a processor, and you always want to be in sync with them, or you're wondering what they're doing, what they're not doing, set up either a weekly or daily email of the top 7 projects that they're doing, the 7 files that they're doing, and put them in order too, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so you can arrange them. You'll always be in sync with your team that way. That was another hack that I realized, that people are completely out of sync with their team, or like 2 weeks later, like, I don't even know what she's working on. It's like, well, just get in sync with them. Just one email. That's it.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge, because I always hear loan officers complain, well, my processor didn't do what I wanted them to do. And I always ask, well, did you communicate with them about what was important to you? And I think that's super critical. Real quick, we got a quick question in here. Someone said, if we can't attend the summit, will it all be able to watch later? So yes, if you buy access, every ticket includes at least 30 days access. And secret, there's actually content that we can't fit into the show. We've got so much good content. So there's actually be another, it's almost 2 hours of after content that'll be available in the portal by early next week. So you'll have access to the full run of show the following day, as well as then the cut up pieces will be there within a couple of days. So you can watch it. You'll have access for 30 days, and then you'll be able to, if you upgrade your pass, you get a whole year of access, which so far it's about 65% of the tickets sold are for the full year access. Which is mainly for people who saw it from last year. So that just speaks to me about how much people enjoyed the content last year. And Dave and I both believe it's even better this year. Someone else is asking about the agenda. The agenda should be out shortly, because Dave and I called an audible this morning and we moved something. We made a working lunch. So we're going to have Shant Manosian during lunch, the #1 loan officer in America, walking through how he runs his team while you eat lunch, instead of having just a countdown clock. So it'll be way more exciting. The show will get done 30 minutes earlier. It's going to run till about 3-ish. So you East Coasters, that's going to be 6-ish your time. And the only complaint we got last time is we went till like 7 or 8 East Coast time. So we don't want to get you guys all going off in a direction. So Khai, you mentioned the 80-20 rule, which I love. And you said you might only get 1 or 3 ideas out of a conference. I feel that people are going to go to the Modern Mortgage Summit and have 10 to 30 ideas. So how do you coach someone on how to prioritize that? I think someone like you're the ninja. You're going to be able to figure out how real quick these are the most important. But for someone who's overwhelmed because they're like, I got 10 ideas, where do I start? How do you coach them on that?
Yeah, the answer is going to be each individual person, but so here's what I would say too. I don't have my graphic on it, but there's like 3 levels of loan officers. Okay. Your first level, which is going to be your 0 to 8 units a month, usually doesn't have a team or maybe an assistant. You have that second level where they do about between 8 and 13 units a month, have an LOA, maybe they're about to hire their second person. And then you have the bigger producers that are doing 15 plus units a month, and they have 3-4 people on their team. They all have different needs and priorities. And so your level 1 producers, most of their priorities are going to be about consistent lead generation, and also really building that team for the first time. So when you go to an event, key onto those things that make you consistent in your day, consistent in your marketing, and also hiring and delegating, and learn to delegate. Another thing about this business is that unless you're going to do five units or less a month, which I don't think that's really anybody's goal. Anybody who's going to do 5 units or more, you have to have an assistant, an LOA, or processor to work with. This is not a business that you really want to do alone if you want to have a life and you want to be anxiety free. and if you haven't read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, The E-Myth Revisited, that is probably my favorite business book of all time, because it just talks about the difference between running a business and being self-employed. Being self-employed is like a baker who has a bakery and they're just baking all day. And if you just want to do loans all day and take every single call and never go on vacation without your phone ringing, or do you actually want to have a business that you have an assistant, you have team members that will help you produce, but not only that, customer service is better when you have more people on your team, because you're not the only one that has to respond to every single person, and customer service goes up. Another thing too is that, so then we get to level 2, and these are the people that have a person, and what they need to work on is really development of the team and development of the processes. So they have to they have to work on their loan process. They have to work on setting up CRM, an organizational spreadsheet for the first time. They have to work on training. They have to work on getting their second team member going. Okay. The other thing too is that, and that person is always like on the cusp of moving up or moving back down, moving up or moving back down. and And their focus is really getting up to that space where, they do 10 loans, 10, 12 loans a month, but they're really eyeing 20 loans a month, and it's really building the team. And also those people have to start focusing on leadership. And so what I'm saying here is that you can go to a conference, and you can get so much information, but I think the question is, what information is relevant to you? And then when you get the bigger producers, I think the bigger producers are all about leadership management. I think that a lot of people shy away from being leaders, shy away from being managers, shy away from being trainers, but that's what makes teams great. When you actually look at yourself in the mirror one day, you say, I'm the CEO, I'm the leader of this team. So I have to make sure that everybody's happy, efficient, get to know them, take them out to dinner, buy them gifts, but but be a leader, train them, figure out, because that's everything that's running your business. And so level 3 is really about leadership and training more than anything else. The other thing too is, I love this Warren Buffett quote. He said, if you haven't learned how to make money when you're sleeping, then you're going to work until you die. And then what that means is that I think a lot of times in the loan industry, we do too many manual things to create business. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of outreach. It's a lot of outbound calls. Work on the automation side of your business, the database side of your business, the promotional side of your business, the social media side of your business, because that's going to work and it's going to sell for you while you're not working. And that's what's going to make the phone ring. It's a difference between inbound and outbound calls. I was always a database marketer. And the thing about database marketing, it's a complete metrics. You should be able to close 10% of your database every single year. So if you have a 1,000-person database, you should do 100 loans a year. And the math behind that is this: a person gets a new loan every 5 years. So that means 20% of your database is going to get a loan every single year. If you can close 50% of that, then you're going to do 10% of your database every single year. So your goal should be to build it. So if you want to do 100 loans, your goal should be to get to 1,000 people in your database, which means every person you ever contacted, every closed loan, compile in your database, just keep in touch with them every single day, every single week, every single month, manually and automated, because there's no way you can make that many phone calls in a month. And you'll be able to get that 10% pull through. And,
awesome.
and so that also is a key piece. But again, sometimes you just look at your problems or you look at the direction where you're going, and you pick a few and you put them in order. And for some people, it'll be different. I mean, as a coach, yeah, I can help people with that. I can see where the gaps are and I can see what's missing. But usually it's according to like those levels and what's important to you.
I love it. I love it how you divide it into 3 different levels. And I know you coach to all 3 levels. I know some coaches only want to coach the big super producers. And I know that you've built your team up so that you do all of it. And I think that's awesome. And I appreciate the fact that you pointed out the different things they should be looking for as they're gathering in information. So if it's Modern Mortgage Summit or something else, you mentioned that you would have already scheduled to have Thursday off to redo the event. So someone who hasn't scheduled off Thursday, or would you recommend that they, carve out some time over the weekend? And then what would you recommend that process looks like?
Yeah, just carve some time after. But again, so for me, because I do my 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. every single morning, that's sort of my catch-all for everything. But yeah, I would definitely do, the first working day back is your download day. Another thing to do too is, so I get coached. So I think coaches should get coached as well too. And I get coached by strategic coach Dan Sullivan. And Dan believes in a different form of time blocking, which I like too, which is not necessarily hourly time blocking, but daytime blocking. So for example, every Tuesday for me is my creative day. So every other Tuesday, it's pretty much every other Tuesday is a half Tuesday. And then the other Tuesday, it's all of Tuesday. That's my one day that I do non-production things, non-coaching things. It's me working on my business. It's always Tuesdays. And so then I make my production days Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So for a loan originator, it would be something like Tuesday and Thursday for me. Tuesday and Thursday is pipeline day. Monday is management day. Friday is like creative day. Wednesday is like hump day. So that's like, you see what I'm saying? Like you can split up your time into 5 different days instead of trying to go by hour. Hourly time blocking is really difficult because we gain momentum and then we have to stop momentum. I know I've looked at people's calendars. They say, okay, between 10 and 12, I do this. And then between 12 and 2, I do this. And between 2 and 3, I do that. It happens some of the time, but then you start leaking things. You move things around too much. I just say, today is marketing day. The next day is creative day. The next day is leadership day. This day is for reviewing what I learned at the Modern Mortgage Summit, and I want to implement these things. Or this is CRM day. This is training day. It's a lot easier because you can stay in the flow the whole time. You're going to do other things, but then you can just get back to it. Let's say today is like CRM day. You want to tweak your CRM. Of course, you're going to get emails. You got to fix some files. You got to fix some loans. But as soon as you're done with it, get back to doing that CRM. And out of an 8-hour day, if you say today's CRM day, you'll get a good 3 hours in, even with distractions. Does that make sense? And that 3 hours is more than you ever would have time blocked any other time. And it's just about creating that priority.
Well, I think it's so critical. And I think that, you acknowledge what people were thinking as you were saying that. They're like, I can't spend all day doing something totally different. But you said, no, you're going to have to deal with the reactions, right? You said, hey, I like to be proactive in my morning, but we all know you have to react as loan issues come in. And so, yeah, I agree with you. If they can start their morning off, if that's their focus CRM day this morning, then spend your focus on that and then let those distractions come in. But yeah, force yourself to get back to it. If you really want to get it done, you have to schedule it and be intentional to get it done.
I want everything to be a priority except doing loans. I know that sounds funny, but I want my priority to be marketing. I want it to be growth. I want it to be leadership, training. Loans to me it was just a necessary evil. It was once the client wanted to do something, I just had to get it to closing as quickly as possible. Then I wanted to delegate. Here's another myth about time management. I mean, you only have so much finite time. So somebody asked in the chat, 5 units, you need an assistant. Yeah, the rule of thumb is you need one person to help you for every 5 units that you do. So the first 5 units is you and a processor. And then after that, from 5 to 10, it's you, a processor, and an LOA. And then from 10 to 12, it's you, processor, and LOA, and admin, and you add one person for every 5 units. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that'll say, oh, I can do 25 units and I can just do it by myself. It's like, okay, but like, what are your working hours? What's your anxiety level? Do you ever get on the cell phone when you're on vacation? You're standing in line at Disney World. That's not the life that I want to live. I want to maximize my hourly rate, not maximize like my ego, because I can tell people I can do so much. You know, that reminds me of, because guys know this, you go to the grocery store, it's like how many bags you can bring in at once versus just taking 2 trips. You know what I mean? So it's not a contest how we can overwork. It's about creating efficiency in what we do, and then just having a life, right? Here's another area, just because people, okay, so here's another place that people get stuck, especially when it comes to training. I hired an assistant. How do I train them, or what do I do? Well, let's talk about training first. Training can be broken down into 4 categories. And I think this will help people a lot when it comes to training and management. There is qualification, guidelines, company processes, and then personal processes. Okay, what does that mean? When you have an LOA, you have a processor. The first part of training is, can they qualify a loan? Now, qualification means things like calculating hourly rate, pay stubs, biweekly payments, monthly payments, IRAs. Do you know how to calculate DTI, reading FICO scores? How do you calculate an Amex payment, lease payments that are less than 10 payments left? Just basic calculation. Like last time I physically did a 1003 myself was probably in 2005, but I still know how to qualify. I can talk to people about, oh, look, I got a pay stub, multiply it by this, divide it by that. This is my DTI. It's basic qualification. Does your LOA, does your assistant, does that processor know how to qualify? Or read tax returns. I know the rules change for different loans, but understanding how to read tax returns, depreciation, AGI, what you can add back, that's all in the qualification area, and separate that, okay? The second area is now guideline differences. Refis versus purchase, conventional versus Govy versus VA. Then there's going to be some differences there. So I think one of the mistakes that people make when they are leading and training their staff is they want them to learn it all at once. This is typical how people train somebody. They hire somebody and they say, just follow me and just watch what I do. The problem is that you know so much, it's so complicated. The best way to bring on staff, it doesn't matter how experienced they are, I'll put them on conventional refis only for like the first couple months and have them do it well. And then go conventional purchase. And then from there, go to FHA. And then from there, right? Like, because here's the thing about an assistant, you never, or anybody that works for you, you never want to set them up for failure. So you want to put them in a position where they can do things really, really well. And the only way they can do things really well is if you break it down into small chunks where they can have success. Another thing too is I think people are too obsessed with having their assistants, especially new ones, work 40 hours a week. If I hire a new LOA or new processor, I'm okay if they only work 4 hours a day, but they do their job great. Like I'll give an LOA, you're going to get conventional refinances or conventional purchases only. And I know they're going to be sitting around for the extra 4 days, but I want them to succeed, right? Or they can train for the rest of the time. So we have, like I said, qualification, then we have guidelines. The third area is going to be company processes. So company processes is learning within your company, whether you're a broker or whether you're a lender, whether you're, Celebrity, Loan Depot, cross country, what it is, what is their procedure for uploading a file? What LOS do they use, right? Like disclosures and how does underwriting work? And you have to get to learn, the nuances of that company. And that's a completely different type of training. And then the fourth area is like your personal team processes. How do you do things as a team? Where's the handoff? Who takes the call? How do you submit things? How do you organize yourself? Understand your business is broken down into 4 separate things. And so when you bring somebody on and you train them and you just tell them, watch me, and you're literally doing 2 different loans, you're qualifying here, then there's a company thing that you got to upload, and you got a personal checklist. It's just way too much information. And when you break down training like that, it's so much easier to get people onboarded faster, transition faster, manage them, train them faster. And then you can start to direct the resources, because for qualification training, like you can go to the MGIC website and learn so much about qualifying. They have so many great videos. You want to do things like personal efficiency trainings. There's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of training programs out there that will help your LOA get organized, right? So that's what that training is for. If you want basics of programs and qualification, then you can introduce places like Zinix and things like that. And if you want company, well, ask your company, do you have a training? And I think that's the other thing is like when people look at training, they don't know which box that fits into because they didn't even realize there were 4 boxes. Just like they don't realize that there's different boxes of different coaches, or why should I use a win by known paper planner when I can do this electronic planner? Totally different. What's the best CRM? There isn't one best CRM. It depends on what do you want. Do you want a database CRM? You want a marketing CRM? You want a marketing CRM, a process CRM, or a sales CRM? That's another thing. So just break things down into categories, and that's how you should dissect your business.
Perfect. Can you repeat the 4 categories one more time? Someone's asking if you just run through those.
Yeah. So the first category is just qualification. So qualifying everything from income. So basically calculating DTI, assets, income reserves, things like that. You may not know how many months reserves you need, whether it's 6 months or 12 months, but you should be able to know how to figure out reserves. You should know how to figure out DTI. You should know how to figure out just basic qualification. Part 2 is guidelines according to the loan. Is this VA? Is this conventional? Is this jumbo? Is this FHA? Now that you know how to qualify, you can then qualify correctly according to the parameters of the type of loan. 3 is your company processes, how to work with the underwriter and ops of your company and what they look for in efficiency. Or if you're a broker, what it is for that particular wholesaler. And finally, your personal processes that you're training people on.
Love it. So that was what I knew we were going to get from you, Khai. I mean, I feel like you have done such a good job of taking every part of the process of the business and just putting it into different, I don't know what the right way to say. You just you put buckets for everything to really make it so it makes sense regardless of what level you're at.
Yeah. And I had to learn that as a coach, because when you come into somebody's business, it's like being like a golf instructor. If I ever break down somebody's golf swing, or being like a batting coach or something like that, where do I start? Because it's this completely fast, fluid, dynamic thing. And so as a coach, I had to break down, well, if I'm going to make a processor better, what parts, how do they break down? So I know how to make them better, what areas. And I figured out those 4 areas. They're completely separate things. So when you're looking at your personal development, when you're looking at developing your team, understanding how to break them down into different sections is going to make them better. And so for any of you that play sports or music or anything else, it's the same thing. There's always different funnel meta areas that you can work at that have effect in the other areas. And that's how I've approached it.
I just love it. So there's about 1,000 things running through my mind. Someone asked for the Modern Mortgage Summit link. I threw it back into chat. So keep on jumping in on that. If you have questions, just holler. So if someone's sitting here thinking, all right, like I'm stuck, totally stuck, how do I know if Kai's a good coach for me? So how would you address someone who's just saying, hey, I'm looking for a coach and to make that decision?
So remember I talked about the three levels. Well, so they're all going to get stuck at one place. With level one, you're in that 0 to 7 units a month category. You know how to do business. Where you get stuck is consistency. So you want to look for a coach that's going to help you with consistency, with patterns, with processes. Also in level one, some of the people in level one where, they may only be doing 2 or 3 units a month. And what they really need is they need a marketing coach, a sales coach, somebody to help them really get that production up. When you're in that level two, you're really in that area of looking for somebody who needs structure and teams. And so you're going to look for a coach who specializes structure, teams, and operations. That's usually where that's historically where I've come in. That's been our specialty, even though now we coach all 3 levels. And so it's really just understanding which areas you need and looking for that coach. Do you need a leadership coach? Do you need an operations coach? Do you need a structure coach, automation coach, marketing coach, sales coach? We primarily, our specialty is structure, operations, systems, and helping people scale. It's helping that 10-unit loan officer get to 20 units. It's that 20-unit loan officer getting to 30 units, or maybe it's that 20-unit loan officer who works 65 hours a week, reducing themselves down to 40 hours a week, or legacy situations. Sometimes they've been in the business for 20 years, but they want to pull out of doing the everyday stuff so that they can leave it to the team or hand it down to a son or something like that. That's historically has been our specialty, even though just recently, or coming January 1st, we're going to open up our coaching section, which is going to help the level one, the newer or the lower producers with their marketing, consistent marketing and sales, to get to that level where they can actually think about scaling and hiring. And again, I think hiring and leadership is such a big thing. Like, what kind of ad do I put out? How do I interview people? How do I train them? How do I lead them? These are things that a lot of people, we kind of talk about, but they can get a little bit overshadowed by the shiny marketing ideas sometimes, and the social media ideas and the video ideas. And I think if I had to hear one word if I had to hear one phrase out of most loan officers, it's, I know how to create the business, but I don't have enough time to, because I'm always stuck in my loans, or I'm always stuck troubleshooting. If you could actually just sit there and create business for 20 hours a week, how many units could you do? A lot for most loan officers. And so that's the area that they need help on. By the way, I have this prioritization list that I pulled up. I can share the screen now. This is a good way to prioritize your pipeline. So what I did here is that, and this is just a sample, so these aren't real people, John Doe, et cetera. But what I did here was, this is a spreadsheet that I give to a lot of people when I first work with them. Every single loan, every single prospect, every single person you ever work with should have a close date. Now, I know when we think about close date, we think about loans in process, but everybody has a close date if you think about it, Todd. If you were to come up to me and say, Khai, I need a loan, by default, in my head, you're going to close in 3 months. Okay. So today is October 5th, 10/5, you're going to close 1/5, approximately 3 months. I just add three to the month. And the logic there is it's going to take you about a month to qualify, a month to shop, and then a month to close. So by default, every lead that I get, I'm going to give them a close date, because what this does is this allows me to sort my leads, sort my loans, sort my database. Your entire database should have a close date so that you can sort, that you can see who's going to close sooner than that. So you want to sort your list by close date. What I did here with this particular sheet is I format it where anyone from 0 to 3 gets color green, from 0 to 30 days gets color green, from 31 to 60 days gets colored yellow, and then 61 to 90 days gets colored red. So I can see like what my next 90 days of closing is going to be. So this is usually my in contract. These are my shoppers. And then these are my leads. The second thing that I do, these are the 2 most important fields in your database, in your spreadsheet. If you do these 2 things, it'll change the way you do business. I created a field called stage. It's not the same thing as status. Stage is very sequential, like how people move through a process, right? How people move through a loan. When you meet somebody, it's first a name, then there's interest, then you've contacted them, but they're not qualified yet. Then you qualify them, then they go shopping, they go under contract, they process, they underwrite, they clear, they close, and they close. It's extremely sequential. It's just general stages. I put every single person in a stage so that I can just take a glance at it and know this person's in stage 4, this person's in stage 5. Everybody knows numbers. 5 goes to 6, 6 goes to 7, 7 goes to 8. And I purposely put a number before it because even though I can have these descriptions, I still want to know sequentially like what comes next. Well, what comes after file prep? Is it processing or underwriting? I don't know. I know that 6 comes after 5 and 7 comes after 6, right? So everything's in order. So here's the thing, here's the trick with this spreadsheet. If this is in sequential date order, right? From like soonest date to latest date, this should be in reverse numerical order, 987654321. So what's great about this spreadsheet is I can see when loans are off. So for example, this loan right here is off. It's checked because this is a 6 stuck in between 2 8s. What number should this be, Todd?
It looks like it should be an 8, Khai.
It should be an 8, right? Okay, so that means that this file is stuck in processing when it should be clearing conditions. This is a high priority file. This is a 5 in between 2 7s. Mark that. That's a 5 in between a 6 and a 7. This could be a 6 or a 7. I mark that. This is a 4. They're still shopping, but the reason why I mark these two is that they're within the 30-day encroachment. There's no way if they're still shopping for a home, they're going to close within 30 days because again, this is 30 days here and this is still in like the yellow zone. Mark those 2. These are 3 leads that are still 2s, 3s, and 3s that are in between the shopping phase. And these are like 2s that are in between 3s. And these are 1s that are like in this 90-day phase. So I mark them off. So when it comes to prioritization, I tell my processors, you can work on 7 files at a time. This is my sequence: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for my processing team, right? For my sales team, it's 1, 2, call the realtors and say, how come they haven't found a home? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, get these people that are out of sequence in sequence. It's the easiest thing you can do in a spreadsheet. It's the easiest thing you can do in a CRM because it's all about sequencing. When I think about loan officers that have anxiety, they don't have anxiety about their entire pipeline. They don't even have anxiety about files that are in trouble. What people have anxiety about is not knowing which file is in trouble. And this is the best way to figure out how file is in trouble, is the stage in sequence to the close date. And here I have 1 or 2 choices. I can either turn this into an 8, which means that I got to figure out how to get them into processing, underwritten, and clearing conditions fast, or I can call the realtor and call the client and change the close date to 10/17, which puts them back into sequence. 1 of the 2. You can put people back into sequence by changing this or changing that. 1 of the 2. And if you do this every single day, you wake up every single day with so much less anxiety. The team's in sync. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And yes, you can, depending on what CRM you have, or whether it's Jungo or Shape or whatever that is, if you can get these 2 fields in there and then categorize better. And I know people say, well, what about other things like did title go out, did the appraisal go out? Those are just all set. Those are different fields. You can have status for I'm waiting for this and just use that over here on the side. But this is my personal field that I use, which is called stage. Probably my biggest hack of all time when it comes to organization.
Dude, I love that. Everyone's eyes are spinning, but I knew when we started out this call that if we got something like that out of you, it was going to be take it from a home run to a grand slam. And I think that everyone now knows, how does Khai McBride's brain think every day? And to me, that sums up what I believed.
Here's another one too. So this is my 90-day pipeline. This is what's going to close. This is what's going to close in the first 30 days. This is next in line, all the shoppers from 30 to 60. These are all the leads coming in. Okay. I have something that I have this formula that I thought of a while back. I call it the magic number, and it's how to consistently fund loans consistently month after month. Because how often do you fund 7 loans and then 12 loans and then 5 loans and then 13 loans? You have all this up and down. Well, the reason why people fund that is they only think about this part of the pipeline. Okay, which is like your open pipeline. They see this, they close it out, and they're like, crap, I have nothing behind it, right? So I like this view because if I've got about this much, what is it, about like 4 inches worth of loans, I want to see about 6 inches of shoppers behind that. Does it make sense? And then
Yeah.
behind that, I want to see like another 6 inches of leads. So my formula is this. I call it the magic number. It's just the rule of 7. And I'll just kind of write this at the bottom. For every one loan you fund, think about it this way. If you want to consistently fund one loan, you want to have 2 loans in your pipeline. Why? Because if you fund one, you still want to have one left, right? That makes sense? To fund one loan, let me just write this here. To fund one loan, your pipeline. So in other words, your contract pipeline, you have to have 2 loans in there. Again, you want to fund 5 loans, make sure you have 10 loans in there. Because if you fund 5 out, you still want 5 left in there. Because if you fund 5 out and there's 0, you don't have anything under contract, right? To maintain a 2 loan pipeline, your shoppers, the ones that are out there looking, putting in offers, it's about 3. To maintain this, you need about this. Why? Because about 1/3 of the people won't find a house. They don't, right? They just keep getting beat out. The price point's wrong, whatever that is. To maintain this, which is your leads, prospects, you need about that. So it's a 2-3-2 ratio, 2-3-2 to fund one loan. 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 7. You want to do 5 loans a month. This plus this plus this needs to equal 35. Is that right? 7 times 5 is 35. Yep. You want to fund 10 loans a month. 7 times 10 is 70. This plus this plus this is 70. So if I were auditing this sample pipeline, what's the 90 days? The 90 days goes out to about, you want to go up to about 9 days. This is 57, right? So 57, 55. 55 divided by 7 is 8. Is that the number? This person's going to have, 56 divided by 7 is that, yeah, it's about like 8, right?
Yep, you're close. Yep.
This person's going to average 8 loans a month. 8 loans a month, you want your 90-day pipeline to look like this. So,
well, and anytime someone starts talking specifics around a formula to get there, right? And so I think the whole key with this is, one size doesn't fit all, but I think that Khai's got a pretty good formula, right? Through Win by Noon, I've talked to, thousands of loan officers and real estate agents who have figured out what their numbers are. And I would start with Khai's number, and then I would start seeing, well, how does that compare to what I do? Because maybe your magic number is off just slightly because your referral sources, your market is different.
Right. Your market's different. Maybe you have less inventory, more inventory. Maybe you convert faster. Some people, their magic number 6. It's a factor of 6. Some it's a factor of 5. Some it could be a factor of 8 just because there's nothing in the market. Where Todd's Win by Noon is great is that I've created a metric for consistency in your pipeline. Now you use Todd's to a Win by Noon to fill that up. So now okay, wait, I need to create more leads. So you got to make your phone calls. You got to do those tasks when you open every single day. And so those tools work together. Your tool fills up my tool. And that's how you stay consistent. There's so much stress about people, their pipelines and what's going on and what's funding, not funding, and losing a deal, not losing a deal. But again, if you have 56 in there, you're going to fund 8 over the next 3 months. Over the next 3 months, you're going to fund 8. That's enough there that you're going to go 8, 8, and 8, and just take whatever that is and divide it by 7. If you have 21 in that total list right now, you're averaging 3 loans a month, and that'll help out a lot of people. And these are all little observations that I've seen over the years, because there's just, another thing too is that I think that we spin our wheels too much with I think there's a lot of loan officers that feel that they do work hard every single day. They make the phone calls and they do their things. But if you don't create the metrics and the analytics to see where you really are, it's like, what? I go to the gym every single day. How come I'm not losing weight? Well, how much cardio are you doing? Are you looking at what weights you're lifting? Are you counting your protein? Are you counting your calories? All these little metrics matter in optimizing your results.
I love that. And that's where, for me, I'm so passionate about then figuring out what are the activities I need to be doing in order to get to the lead, to get to the, to get to the people that are in process and doing all those other things. And so that's a whole nother webinar that we can talk about that. But of course, people are asking about your spreadsheet. I'm assuming it's only available to clients.
This spreadsheet is actually kind of funny. Anybody can make this spreadsheet. And yes, this is for clients. Because this is the thing about this spreadsheet too, is that this is completely programmed on Google Sheets. So it's not really something that I can give out easily to. You need a Google Sheet account. I'd have to share it out to you. But you can, I have a process spreadsheet Like I said, I don't know how I would just put this I mean, I guess I can put this in an Excel spreadsheet. On my website, I have KaiMcBride.com/download. It's either download or downloads, one of the two. You can go to my website. I'll see if I can put a copy of the spreadsheet there so that when you download it, can't make any promises because I got a pretty busy week, but I've never tried this because this is so coded in Google Sheets that I would have to figure out a way to convert it. But to be honest with you, I know people are asking for it, but really this is just 2 columns. The spreadsheet isn't the magic. The magic is categorizing everything. You got to get, like, let me put it this way, Todd. I've given people this spreadsheet and it just ends up being blank because you have to put all the names, you have to put all the close dates, you have to put all the stages. Once you do that, the only thing that's fancy about this spreadsheet is just the coloring. That's it.
The coloring's pretty slick, no doubt about it. And Khai already said it, just create a theme day and go in there and say, I'm going to figure out how to create this. I'm sure you could Google how to create a cool Google Doc like that.
Well, I didn't know how to do this when I first did it. I just figured out, you just go here, you go format, conditional formatting. And I said anything between 0 and 30 and make it green, between 31 and that make it yellow. You kind of figure it out. There's probably some really cool tech person that that will help you do it.
I'm guessing it's 90 minutes of on time, staying focused on this, and you guys can knock it out. Just go back to the video later, rewind. You'll be able to look at it. I actually can tell that I took a picture of it for myself because I thought it was so freaking cool. And I think that's just part of the genius of Khai. So we've got a little less than 10 minutes. Of course, I'm not going to go off on we're going to end sharp at 10 because I got to hop on a plane to get out to the Modern Warrior Summit. But what else do you feel like we want to make sure that you get out to this crowd before we have to jump off?
Yeah, I made my notes and I made them of 7 things. We've hit 6 of them already. So my 7th one is this. It's your team. So this was something that I just realized about a year ago. I've looked at all the best origination teams. I've looked at the best basketball teams. I've looked at the best football teams. They all have one thing in common. There was more than one superstar. A lot of times what happens is when we build a team, we create a team that's too hierarchical. It's like you, and then like your admins here, your LOAs here, or you build this team like this. Well, when Michael Jordan was in the league, he had a bunch of subordinates too. He never won anything. It wasn't until he got Scottie Pippen, his right-hand man, that he started winning championships. When I look at all the best loan teams, including my loan team, everybody has a right-hand person that they completely trust, that can completely take over the business while they're gone. And so I think it's about finding that right-hand person or looking at your team and asking yourself who you can elevate to that right-hand person that you completely trust, because they are as close to either a clone of you or a complement of you that you can run your business. Todd, I mean, win by noon, there's probably one person that you can think of right now.
Adam,
admin, right?
Adam, my right hand.
Adam's your right-hand man. So in my coaching business, it's Robert. In my branch, it's Jeff. And in my division, it's Mark. It's one person that you can depend on. So you have to have this type of structure, and then that person can help you with this. But if you're always here, if you're always like, that person has to solve everything, you're always right, you're always leading, and you're just delegating down, there's not that level of trust. And I've looked at every single successful team, every single successful sports team. Brady had Gronk, right? Actually, he still
does.
Now that I think about it, right? He still has Gronk. You know, Jordan had Pippen, Kobe had Shaq, and then Shaq left, and then Kobe had Gasol. Like, there's always somebody, right? Dave has
Joe,
their CEO name, Joe. Yeah, Dave has Joe. There's always somebody. And so that's really what you want to look for. It's not just like, I need an LOA, I need a processor. It's like, who can you bring up? So this is a controversial topic, but that's why, in my personal opinion, I don't like using company LOAs, shared company LOAs, shared company processors, because they can never be that person that you can trust. I always look at loan officers and say, hire somebody for yourself that only works for you, because that's the only person that will ever have your back as much as you. And when you start going into shared process and working in a team, that person works for the company, and that person works for 5 or 6 other people. When you have an LOA, you have a process that works for you. They can be under the company payroll, but they still work for you. That's when you can finally get the trust and build the team, build the organization, and build that peace of mind and walk away that you really want. And that would be my last thing. And that's probably one of my biggest observations that I figured out over the years.
So I think that's huge and great. It's a perfect layup for me to pitch Modern Mortgage Summit one more time, because we've got a keynote from Sean Minogian, #1 loan officer in America, where he's going to talk about how he runs his team. But then we also have emails from or videos from Shayla Gifford on how she runs her team. We've got them on from Bill Gaylord on how he runs his team, and a couple of others. So we got plenty of content for this.
Bill Gaylord is Sam Hansen. I mean, I know them both, right? I mean, they all have somebody.
they've all got it. And I know in the end, I don't know who Shayla's is, but the fact that she's living in Spain and doing loans tells me she's got one who's pretty amazing. I'll have to ask her next time, we see it. And so I think it's just really critical. Khai's given us 7 different topics that he just laid out, right? 7's his magic number. I feel like there's kid's song about that when you ride the magic school bus. And there's no doubt that there's a ton of value, whether you're in that first category, doing 5 or less, whether in that middle category or the top category. Khai just added a ton of value. You did mention a couple of books. You mentioned E-Myth by Michael Gerber. You mentioned Winning.
The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, Winning by Tim Grover. Those are the 2. Well, the E-Myth is forever. I'm reading the Tim Grover book right now. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That's a huge one. To interact better with realtors and clients.
Your rate negotiations. He's a
FBI. I mean, I have an entire list of books on Audible and everything else that I listen to. Another thing about that right-hand person is that when you have somebody who's really like your go-to, I mean, Todd, how many times are you just driving home one day and you're Adam, right? You're going to call Adam. You're just going to brainstorm. That right-hand person is also your brainstorming person. That right-hand person is the person that I got this idea. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? It makes you feel like you're not working alone. I think a lot of loan officers feel like they're on an island sometimes. And that right-hand person is like their business best friend. I can't count how many times I'm just randomly driving and I just pick up the phone and I call Robert and we just shoot the breeze about stuff, or he's calling me. And that will change the dynamic of your mind and just your whole working dynamic and your growth by having a person like that in your life.
Well, and you just said it, you're trying to scale something so that you can walk away, right? I think scaling is something that most people aren't thinking big enough. You said that earlier, right? If you're growing and you're not moving that goal up higher, that's really when stagnation happens and you get stuck. And I think having that person, I think it's awesome. And I think that's, a lot of, I think what we see here, right? Dave used to do all these interviews. And then I was fortunate enough to be the guy who got to come in and run interviews with Dave. So Dave can be speaking, I can be here. But it's, the iron sharpens iron mentality. And I think it's just a great kind of bringing it up the ladder from where we started to where we're finishing. A great conversation all the way.
Yeah,
through.
exactly. I'm glad Dave has you now as his Batman and Robin for doing these, right? Like, because he knows he could be off and he's like, you know what, Khai, well, Todd's going to take care of it because he's equally great like me. And exactly. I feel the same way. So you're his right-hand man in this stuff. And it's been great. We've noticed the difference since you joined. So that's exactly it.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot. I think it's a lot of fun. And I know, you and I've gotten to spend some time at events together, but this hour has been just a true blast for me. And I'm super grateful for your involvement in the community. I would encourage all of you to go check out KhaiMcBride.com. It's somewhere here in the things. Any other last minute places you want to send anyone or things to do, just go there, right?
Yeah, go there. And then if you are interested in just chatting with me, if you go to contact up at the top, and then there's an onboarding link and we can schedule a call. And if you ever want to chat about, and I'm the type of person that when we chat, I'm not going to try to sell you coaching. I want to get to know who you are. I want to get to know what your goals are. I mean, it's got to be a two-way street. I have to feel like it's going to be successful. And what? Also, too, friend me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, KhaiMcBride.com, and both. I'm the only Khai McBride in the world. And if you just want to chat in a DM, then let's do that too. I'm not going to force everybody to coach with me. I want to make a lot of friends.
Well,
we can talk sports. We can talk golf too. That's fine.
All great things we can chat with Khai. So I am super grateful that all of you tuned in and stayed through the end. I'm super grateful for Khai showing up. He was worried that because Facebook broke yesterday, you wouldn't be here, but you guys all showed up, asked great questions. Can't wait to see you all tomorrow live from the stage on the Modern Mortgage Summit. As always, on behalf of Dave and the crew at Mortgage Coach, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.
See you, Todd. Thanks.